Good morning, everyone. Reverend Margaret here. I wanted to come live this morning for a few reasons. One, if like me, your heart broke a little this week when we learned that Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg died, I just wanted to come on and create some space for that. The service that we recorded was recorded ahead of Justice Ginsburg's death. And so I wanted to take some time this morning and just pay tribute to her and express my gratitude to her and hold some space for our grief. So I think, when someone as prolific as Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who perhaps there hasn't been anyone quite as prolific as her in her time, with her death, that it sent ripples out into our country, into our world. I have friends who live in other countries who there's news of her death on their news sources as well. She was such a champion and a pioneer for justice and equity and compassion, the values that we hold dear as Unitarian Universalists, and also a huge champion for democracy. But aside from her professional roles and the impact that she had on our country and our lives, I think that Ruth Bader Ginsburg was also an amazing parent, an amazing grandparent. Oftentimes when we have these heroes in our lives, these amazing folks, we can forget that they're human beings. I think there are some of us who thought that she might live forever, actually, or hoped that she might. And she held on as long as she could. But she was a human being. She was a mother, a grandmother, an auntie, a person who changed this world, but also should be able to be grieved by her family. And so my prayer for all of us is that I hope that her family is able to remember her as the individual that she was in their lives, and also that we as a country will honor her memory. If you're not already registered to vote, if you are someone who's not quite sure if you're going to vote in this election, please do some homework. Please talk with your neighbors. Please get involved in our democratic process, because this election is going to determine so much of the trajectory of the next 4 years. And I think for many people, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, RBG, was someone who we put a ton of our hope into, and she did her work, and she fought tirelessly throughout her life. 2 weeks from today is the 27th anniversary of her being put on the Supreme Court, seated on the Supreme Court, and I had already planned on having that October 4th being a day where we would learn from her wisdom. And now that feels even more appropriate after her passing. So I hope that you'll join us for that service. So my chalice is lit today for Ruth Bader Ginsburg, for the impact that she had on my life in ways that I probably don't even fully grasp at this moment. But I wanted to share this piece that my friend Kimberly, who is a colleague of mine, she serves down in New Jersey, she wrote this piece, and I think it says a lot about how many of us are feeling in this moment. So I'll share this with you, and then I will stream our service. So welcome this morning. I hope these words speak to you in this moment. It was never her responsibility to keep us from going under. Deathbeds are for gratitudes and guilt, for I love yous and forgive me's. The spirit seeking rest and release deserves to dance into the eternal, deserves to hear their name sung, not screamed. We are afraid, we are numb, we are raging, we are wailing, we are seeking, begging for answers. Tell us what to do. We are confused. We are heartsick. We are tucking our children in and sending out emails and scrolling and doom scrolling and doom. We are trying to remember the stories about empires, the way that they crumble about pharaohs and slaves, messiahs and disciples, and the ways we've been taught to put all our hope into one person at a time. It was never her responsibility to keep us from going under. Let us not confuse the sadness of her passing with our guilt for asking so much. Rest in power. Rest. So may it be. Amen and blessed be. So my prayer for us is that we may find a way to honor Ruth Bader Ginsburg's memory, to live into the values that she upheld, the values of justice and fairness and equity, and that we might find a way forward. So I ask those things in the name of all that is holy and good and true. Amen.
Welcome to our worship service at the First Unitarian Society of Ithaca, a community that reaches for connection even while distanced, digs deep for inspiration in uncertain times, and strives to engage with a complex and uncertain world as we work to shepherd our community through this time of physical distancing. My name is Sue Anke, and I'm the Celebration Associate today. I am at what I consider my backyard, Taganik Falls. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to everyone, whether you are newcomers or longtime attendees, members of the Ithaca community, or watching from afar. We are delighted that you have chosen to worship with us. Be sure to check your email, our Facebook page, and our website for more information about how to create connections. If you'd like to receive weekly updates describing opportunities for engagement, please email a request to office@uuithaca.org. Our service this morning has been pre-recorded, but we look forward to sharing the service broadcast on Sunday morning and seeing you all at the live coffee hour that follows.
Our opening words this morning are adapted from Alice Anachenka-Nassaman. In a time of uncertainty, when everything around us is changing constantly, each day new developments, rising numbers, changing guidelines, when the world we live in suddenly seems upside down and topsy-turvy, we light our chalice to remind ourselves of our grounding in our faith. We remember that the flaming chalice came into being as a beacon of hope during World War II, a secret symbol that offered help. In the midst of it all, we wrap ourselves in the warm light of a familiar flame, a reminder of the strength that emerges when we come together in community, however and wherever that happens. The flaming chalice is the symbol of mystics and heretics, artists and activists, reformers and refugees, and Unitarian Universalists everywhere. We light this chalice for the warmth of love, the light of truth, and the energy of action.
Welcome, welcome. My name is Stephanie Ortolano. I am the music director here at First Unitarian Society of Ithaca. For our opening hymn this morning, we will be singing a two-part round, Come, Come, Whoever You Are. Let's just start by singing the first part together. Let's try to sing both together. We'll start with the first part, and then the second part will come in after it. Choose whichever part makes you happy today, and you can even jump between them.
Good morning, friends. This Tuesday is a special day. Does anyone know what it is? That's right, it's the autumn equinox. The autumn or fall equinox is one of 2 days of the year when we have exactly 12 hours of light and 12 hours of darkness. And it's the official beginning of autumn. I know a lot of people love the fall. The air gets a special kind of crispness. The leaves change to brilliant shades of scarlet and gold. And of course, the fall is also harvest season, so there are so many yummy foods to enjoy. In my family, we have a lot of fall traditions that we look forward to each year. And this year, there are some that we are not going to be able to do. And that can feel really disappointing. It can feel really hard when you expect something and those expectations are not met. And that can happen when we don't get to do a special activity, when we don't get to see friends and loved ones, when someone breaks their word, if we don't get the part or the job or the promotion that we were hoping for, or even when we don't get called on our teachers, when we have our hand up and we so desperately want to share. Sometimes we have to live with that disappointment and learn to move on. Sometimes we find the thing that we wanted or expected doesn't happen, but something just as good or even better happens instead. I want you to take out your packet now and open it up with me. Ready? See what's in it. What did you find inside? See if I can get mine out. An acorn! An acorn is the seed of an oak tree, and it is filled with expectation. Will it become a tree? Does every acorn that falls to the ground become a tree? No, they don't all get to take that journey. Some get too hot or too cold. Some become precious food over the winter for squirrels, chipmunks, or mice. I'm going to read you a story right now about a mouse. It's called Nuts by Paula Gerritsen. Mouse lives on a little hill. She has a beautiful view of the field, the farm, the meadow, and far, far away, the nut tree. Autumn, time to collect nuts. Mouse wraps her scarf around her neck and puts on her coat with the big pockets. Extra big pockets for extra lots of nuts. Suddenly, Gull swoops above Mouse. "Go home," he screeches, "a storm is coming!" But Mouse can't hear over the wind. The farmer is racing back to the barn before the rain comes. Hare jumps out of the way, shouting, "Get out of here, Mouse, or you'll be run over!" But Mouse can't hear over the roar of the tractor. In the meadow, Sheep bleats at Mouse, "Watch out, behind you, a dog, a dog!" But Mouse can't hear over the barking. Suddenly, it gets very, very dark. Lightning strikes and thunder roars. The wind blows even harder. It whips the leaves into the air and almost lifts Mouse into the air too. But finally, here is the nut tree. Mouse dives into the hole at the bottom of the tree to get out of the wind, and before she knows it, she is fast asleep. When she wakes up, Mouse goes outside to collect nuts, but what happened? All the leaves are gone. There are only 3 leaves left, and all those delicious nuts are gone too. Sadly, Mouse walks home. Back through the meadow, back past the farm, back through the field. Without one single nut in her extra big pockets. A few leaves fly along with her. At home, at the top of the little hill, Gull is jumping up and down and screeching. "Look at the extra special surprise the wind brought you last night," says Gull, with a smile. So, in our story, what is Mouse looking for? That's right, nuts. Just like our acorns. Nuts of all kinds provide food for many creatures over the long, dark winter months. Mouse made a long journey, didn't she? So long and so tiring that she fell asleep when she got to the nut tree. And then what happened when she woke up? That's right, all of the nuts on the tree were gone. How do you think Mouse felt? Yeah, I'm guessing that she felt really disappointed. It is so hard to expect something and then not have it happen, especially when you work really hard for it. But in Mouse's case, it ended up being a happy ending. The storm had carried the nuts back to her own tree, so she had plenty of food for the winter. If the storm hadn't blown the nuts to Mouse's tree, what do you think she would have done? I think she would have felt sad and discouraged, but I bet she would have gone back out to find more nuts to fill up her extra big pockets and bring home with her. When our expectations aren't met, it can feel hard to keep trying. Disappointment can feel big and overwhelming. This fall, as we celebrate this special day and many others, I hope that all of your expectations are met. I hope that you get to pick apples, see loved ones, and do all of the special fall traditions that you and your family have. And if some things happen in a different way this year, I hope that you can both feel the disappointment and keep going. Because who knows? Maybe all of the lost nuts have already been blown to your own house, and it will be an even better experience than you thought it would be.
During this difficult time, so many of us are feeling isolated, scared, alone. It's in times like these when we have the need for a spiritual practice, perhaps more than ever before. Spiritual practices can be immeasurable in their degree of helpfulness. Some of you might be wondering what a spiritual practice is, and it can be many things. It is what helps you to feel grounded, rooted, connected to something larger than yourself. It can be something that helps you connect more deeply to that small, still voice inside you, or to connect more deeply with others. A spiritual practice can be practicing mindfulness, reaching out for help, saying yes, saying no. It can be so many things. A spiritual practice can be speaking your truth into the universe and trusting that it is held there by something larger. God, the great mystery, the energy that surges through the earth. Each week we create a space in our worship time together as a communal spiritual practice. We lift up the names and circumstances that call for our joy and celebration and for our concern and our sorrow. If you are watching this service in live format, I invite you to type your joy or sorrow in the chat box. Or if you wish, you can speak it to the people that you're watching with or aloud to yourself. Speak it into the universe. Together, may we trust that these joys and sorrows are held by the universe, and may we offer our love and compassion so that they may be held with care. At the beginning of our live coffee hour each week, we will have a facilitator who will offer a space for the sharing of joys and sorrows. May we all engage in the communal spiritual practice of listening deeply and offering our care and compassion to one another, particularly during this challenging time. Now, holding in your hearts the joys and sorrows of our lives, those that you have shared and those that remain silent, let us continue in some moments of reflection and prayer. Spirit of life and of love,
mysterious web that connects us in our moments of sadness and of joy, we lift up our hearts today. For many of us, this week has brought a new routine, new challenges, new ways of being with our families and our friends and our workplaces. For many of us, our hearts are tired and overburdened with worry and with fear. Our sun and our sky is painted with a pinkish haze. Our collective prayers are with all those who are displaced and impacted by the fires that are raging on the West Coast, their smoke making it all the way here to New York State. May they be safe from harm and find healing amidst the chaos. As people continue to gather and to protest just hours away from us in Rochester, demanding police reform and accountability for the murder of yet another Black man, our prayers are with them and with all who march and work for justice and equity in this world. May they be safe from harm. May they find healing amidst the chaos. As our children and the grown-ups in their lives adjust to a new way of learning, of playing, of socializing, of growing, may they be safe from harm and find healing amidst the chaos. As the weather begins to turn, the air becomes cooler, may all those who are without food or shelter or the resources they need for health and for safety be safe from harm and find healing amidst the chaos. As our loved ones and we ourselves struggle with the challenges of this pandemic time and long for a sense of balance and familiarity, we are reminded of the fragility of all of our lives. May all those who are struggling with mental illness, addiction, and life in general be safe from harm and find healing amidst the chaos. And may these prayers be lifted up not just for the universe to hold, but for all of us to hold in our hands and our hearts. And may we do what we can to make these prayers a reality. In the name of all that is holy and good and true, so may it be. Amen, and blessed be.
Each week, we take an offering to sustain the important ministries and programs of this congregation and its presence in Ithaca. May these gifts bring about connection, inspiration, and engagement within these walls and beyond.
Our reading this morning are words from Reverend Erica Hewitt. They come from a weekly email I received from the UUA called Braver Wiser. You can sign up for that weekly email. It's a great little meditative piece. This piece was written by Erica and it's called Ground Control. I hate flying. I get scared by turbulence, and understanding the physics doesn't help my head communicate with my fear centers. I realized long ago that it wasn't sustainable to blitz the fear away with pharmaceuticals, which means I've spent my adult life developing strategies for staying calm? No, let's call it less anxious in the air. A few years ago, a pilot friend threw me a lifeline by introducing me to live air traffic. The staccato transmission of static popping chatter between pilots and air traffic control professionals. If you're in the air, you can listen to your own pilot exchanging information with the air traffic control, an audible reminder, or even a revelation that a host of trained human beings watches over every move, making sure pilots know what they need to know in any given moment. It doesn't matter that I can barely decipher the rush of code and engineering that comprise this language of the sky. I'm soothed by the occasional bursts of human kindness. Roger that, Delta 29er. Thank you very much for your patience and have a great day. And now I know that as planes travel through a patchwork of designated zones, air traffic control professionals hand off the plane at the border of one zone to those in the next. We, the passengers, are a baton being passed, hand over invisible hand, zone by zone, to safety. During these confusing, turbulent pandemic times, I sometimes feel my stomach lurching from uncertainty and loss. On any given day, I feel as out of control as I do at 34,000 feet. I am, however, just as determined not to rely on chemical substances as a coping mechanism. But this great and fearful loneliness is made lonelier by the muddling of my connection to spirit, to mystery. I find myself trying to make decisions, asking for help, straining to find it. It used to be that if I held still long enough, she writes, I'd feel gentle guidance bloom inside of that silence. Today, there's so much noise, anxiety, brittleness, disappointment in my fellow human beings that it's harder to discern wise, steady instructions amid the static. I did not ask for or want a months-long lesson that I am not in control. What I do know is that the most faithful, life-giving coping strategy for me is to attune to a voice calmer and wiser than mine, and to allow that seeking to be its own expression of faith. So ends our reading. Though you've broken your vows 1,000 times, Come, yet again come. Though you've broken your vows 1,000 times, come, come, whoever you are. These are the words from the Sufi poet Rumi that we sang together this morning in our opening hymn. The words of our hymn, as it's written in our teal hymnal, it doesn't include the other stanza of the poem that references the breaking of vows. The original writing did. Though you've broken your vows 1,000 times, come, come, yet again come. Even if you are disappointed in yourself, or what you have imagined, or what you have set out to accomplish that did not come to fruition, let it be enough. Reverend Vanessa Southern writes, so much undone, so much to do, so much to heal in us and the world, so much to acquire. A meal, a healthy body, a fit one, a lover, a job, a better job, proof we have and are enough, just around the corner of now. And up against it, the reality of all that falls short and the limits of today. We honor the limits, she writes. If your body won't do what it used to do, for now, let it be enough. If your mind won't stop racing or can't think of the word, let it be enough. If you are here utterly alone and in despair, be here with us. If today you cannot sing because your throat hurts or you don't have the heart for music, be silent. When the offering plate goes around, if you don't have enough money to give or the heart to give, let it pass. The world won't stop spinning on her axis if you don't rise to all occasions today. Love won't cease to flow in your direction. Your heart won't stop beating. All hope won't be lost. She goes on, you are part of the plan for this world's salvation. Of that I have no doubt. The world needs its oceans of people striving to be good, to carry us to the shores of hope and wash fear from the beach hands, and cleanse all wounds so that they can heal. But oceans are big, and I am sure there are parts that don't feel up to the task of the whole some days. Rest, if you must, like the swimmer lying on her back who floats, or the hawk who carries himself on cushions of air. Perhaps you will feel in your bones, in your weary heart, the aching, healing sense that this is enough, even this, that we are enough. You are enough. Our expectations of ourselves and each other are overwhelming sometimes, as is our tendency to think that we can control everything. In our reading this morning by my colleague, she reminds us that there are forces beyond us that are passing us like a baton from one place to the next on this journey. And this doesn't mean that we don't have free will, but it does mean that much of the time, experiences and circumstances will unfold as they will. It means that much of the time we will be surprised at the outcome, or shocked, or in awe. It means that our expectations may not be met, not necessarily by letting us down, but maybe by surprising us in a good way, or in a way we never even imagined. I think this is part of why we gather each week as a congregation, whether online or in person, reminding us that the world is bigger than you or me or Ithaca or the United States, that there is a universe beyond this planet, that we, you and me, are simultaneously more powerful than we could ever imagine, and more insignificant than we could ever fully grasp. What an amazing place to live. In her book, Stubborn Grace, Faith, Mental Illness, and Demanding a Blessing, my colleague and friend, Reverend Kate Landis, writes this. I spent 5 years pawing through the grab bag of spiritual practices before I fell in love with Unitarian Universalism. No easy answers, plenty of mystical journeying, but in partnership with other seekers. People who push me to grow while loving me just as I am. Plenty of reminders that I am not the center of the universe. Plenty of time out of my comfort zone, and more pure joy than anyone expects to find on a Sunday morning. Talk about a set of unmet expectations for my friend Kate, and maybe some of that resonates for you. Expecting to find a religion with judgment and fear, and finding something vastly different. Now those are some unexpected changes, some unexpected discoveries. As human beings, we think we know ourselves, how we might react or behave in a situation, or what we would do if presented with this challenge or that. We base these assumptions and expectations on how we've reached this place earlier in our lives. How have we reacted? How have we behaved in the past? And we partner that assessment with the narrative that we believe about ourselves. If I believe that I am a straightforward person, I would expect that I would continue to be so in nearly every situation. If I believe that I'm a caring person, I would expect that I would react in a caring way in the future, and so on and so forth. But as we know, life is not predictable. We are not, as it turns out, always in control of our situation or how we might behave within it, or how others might react or interact with us. Turns out we don't actually know how we would behave in a particular situation, only how we think we might. And sometimes life throws us curveballs that we didn't expect. We had planned for things to go one way and they go another, and we can be left with feelings of disappointment, regret, worry, fear. And we can also surprise ourselves. We might find new happiness or joy or become more resilient as a result. And thankfully, when we fall short, we can learn and promise ourselves to do better next time. Before I was a minister, I was a rehabilitation counselor. I worked primarily with veterans with post-traumatic stress disorder, chronic addiction, mental illness. Many of these veterans were also experiencing homelessness at the time. And in my training, I came across a reading that has helped to shape my outlook on expectations. I know I've shared this reading with you before, but I find myself returning to it again and again, as I do with most things that have impacted my understanding of the world and my place in it. It's a piece written by Emily Pearl Kingsley. It's called Welcome to Holland. She writes, I'm often asked to describe the experience of raising a child with a disability. I try to help people who have not shared that unique experience to understand it, to imagine how it would feel. It's like this. When you're going to have a baby, it's like planning a fabulous vacation trip to Italy. You buy a bunch of guidebooks, you make your wonderful plans, the Colosseum, the Michelangelo David, the gondolas in Venice. You may learn some handy phrases in Italian. It's all very exciting. After months of eager anticipation, the day finally arrives. You pack your bags and off you go. Several hours later, the plane lands. The stewardess comes in and says, "Welcome to Holland." Holland, you say? What do you mean Holland? I signed up for Italy. I'm supposed to be in Italy. All of my life, I have dreamed of going to Italy. But there's been a change in the flight plan. They've landed in Holland, and there you must stay. The important thing is that they haven't taken you to a horrible, disgusting, filthy place full of pestilence, famine, and disease. It's just a different place. So you must go out and buy new guidebooks. And you must learn a whole new language. And you will meet a whole new group of people
you would never have met. It's just a different place. It's slower paced than Italy, less flashy than Italy. But after you've been there a while, and you catch your breath and you look around, you begin to notice that Holland has windmills, and Holland has tulips. Holland even has Rembrandts. But everyone you know is busy coming and going from Italy, and they're all bragging about what a wonderful time they had there. And for the rest of your life, you will say, yes, that's where I was supposed to go. That's what I had planned. And the pain of that will never, ever, ever go away, because the loss of that dream is a very, very significant loss. But if you spend your life mourning the fact that you didn't get to Italy, you may never be free to enjoy the very special, the very lovely things about Holland. Most of us have had an experience like this. Perhaps not exactly this experience, but one where we expected one outcome, and that changed. Or an experience where we thought one thing should be so, and it wasn't. Or an experience that has knocked us down when we least expected it. The death of a loved one, a diagnosis, a divorce, the loss of a job, a sudden shift in school or work from in-person to online or back again. A sense of brokenness in our relationship. Having unmet expectations can be jarring. It can be disorienting. It can be scary. But it can also open up possibilities we hadn't considered before because they weren't in our current way of seeing the situation. Some say that everything happens for a reason. I say that everything happens, and we make meaning of those happenings. As human beings, we are wired to make meaning. We want to be reminded that we are both powerful and insignificant. We want to stand out and blend in. We want to change the world and be changed by the world. And sometimes to get there, we have to let go of what we think we want or should do or are capable of to make space for what may come to be. This is a process of letting go, of surrendering control, of allowing space for the world to unfold as it will. This is a process of managing expectations, our own and the expectations others have of us and ours of others. Sometimes that's easier said than done. So if you are feeling inadequate, know that you are enough. If you're feeling not quite up to the task of parenting, of friending, partnering, working, caring, cut yourself some slack. If you're disappointed in yourself, know that you too are human and therefore prone to messing up every once in a while. Take a deep breath. Forgive yourself. Forgive others. And come, yet again, come. Though you have broken your vows 1,000 times, though your expectations fell short, though you did not live up to your best self, come, yet again, come. You are enough. In the end, we all are. So may it be. Amen. Blessed be. We extinguish this chalice, but not the hope, love, and courage that it represents. We carry our love and our courage out into this beautiful and broken world. Our service is now ended. Let our true service now begin. Go in peace.